Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something wild, a massive paradigm shift happening right now at the absolute limits of human endurance. It turns out elite endurance athletes are fundamentally rethinking their entire nutritional foundation just to survive the extreme physical tolls they put their bodies through. So here's the billion-dollar question shaking up the sports nutrition world right now. Why on earth are elite endurance athletes abandoning traditional whey protein? Sounds crazy, right? I mean, whey has literally been the gold standard for decades. But surprising 2025 data shows a massive, accelerated shift away from dairy isolates. Instead, the world's top performers are turning toward holistic, biodynamic plant matrices. Let's figure out why. Here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, we'll look at the endurance toll. Then the muscle and oxygen matrix. We'll cross the anti-inflammatory bridge, explore clean metabolic efficiency, and finally, look at the exact elite recovery protocol being used for 2026. All right, part one, the endurance toll and surviving the catabolic cascade. Look, after hours of relentless, grueling output in events like an Ironman, your body basically runs out of standard fuel. That triggers a destructive biological emergency where it literally begins consuming its own muscle tissue for energy. Moving right into part two, the muscle and oxygen matrix, how we actually preserve that tissue and deliver oxygen. So to stop that muscle-eating catabolic cascade dead in its tracks, athletes have to introduce a highly specific amino acid profile. Check out this exact ratio, 2:1:1. That represents leucine, isoleucine, and valine, your branched-chain amino acids. Found completely naturally in hemp protein, this biological ratio is optimized to preserve your muscle tissue and delay central fatigue. It actually does this by blocking serotonin-producing tryptophan from entering your brain. And the absolute best part, it does the whole job without the massive insulin spikes you usually get from synthetic, highly processed isolates. But hey, saving muscle is really only half the battle. Your ultimate bottleneck out there is oxygen. Enter nitric oxide, or NO. It's a crucial signaling molecule produced by your endothelium that induces vasodilation, which basically means widening your blood vessels to deliver vital oxygen to your exhausted tissues. Think of it as your body's built-in oxygen generator. If you can keep this generator running, you delay exhaustion. Now, how do you crank that generator up? With an amino acid called arginine. And the data comparison here is honestly pretty stark. Look at this. Hemp protein drops a massive 11.5 grams of arginine per 100 grams. Traditional whey, that only offers about 3.7 grams. That's practically a third. Hemp's ridiculously high arginine content acts as a superior highway opener, fueling the production of nitric oxide and flooding your starving muscles with oxygen right when they need it most. But I know what you're thinking. Does this actually hold up in the real world? Absolutely. In a 2025 study by Vandenberg and colleagues, researchers tracked 48 ultramarathon runners over a grueling 12-week training cycle. The study proved that hemp protein matches whey perfectly for maintaining a positive nitrogen balance. Guys, that's the holy grail of muscle preservation. Hemp maintains that critical anabolic state just as effectively as synthetic isolates, but it brings a whole host of extra benefits to the table. Okay, part three, the anti-inflammatory bridge. It's time to talk about controlling that massive post-race fire. Because, let's be real, after thousands of eccentric muscle contractions, like pounding downhill for miles, your body is essentially engulfed in a massive inflammatory crisis. To put that fire out, you need fats, specifically the right fats. Hemp naturally sits at this absolutely perfect 1:3 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. Unlike the typical Western diet that heavily skews toward inflammation, this perfect ratio actively prevents your body from overproducing pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. It essentially tells your immune system to chill out and stop overreacting. But the real secret weapon hiding in hemp's lipid profile is GLA, gamma-linolenic acid. Now, GLA is a highly rare omega-6 fatty acid. Usually, omega-6s are the bad guys causing inflammation, but GLA is this wild biological anomaly. It actually acts as a potent anti-inflammatory agent. It directly protects your cartilage, lubricates the joint capsule, and legitimately lowers your systemic inflammation rather than causing it. So what does all this molecular biology actually mean for the athlete waking up the morning after a race? Well, the real-world impact of GLA is staggering. We're talking up to a 34% drop in morning joint stiffness, way lower delayed onset muscle soreness. And this is the kicker. Clinical data shows it reduces the required recovery time between intense back-to-back races from 14 to 16 days down to just 10 to 11 days. I mean, getting up to 5 days of your life back, that turnaround time is a massive competitive advantage. Which brings us to part 4, clean metabolic efficiency. Let's look at gut health and hormone stability. When you put the long-term metabolic profile of hemp side by side with highly processed traditional supplements, the shift to clean eating makes total sense. Hemp is completely hypoallergenic. That means no subtle gut inflammation caused by the lactose and casein found in whey. Plus, a 30-gram scoop of hemp gives you a solid 3 to 5 grams of gut-healing fiber, whereas whey gives you absolutely zero. And honestly, perhaps the biggest thing, hemp has a 0% risk of hormones or antibiotics. Whey, being sourced from industrial dairy, carries a super high risk of these residues, which can seriously disrupt an athlete's endocrine system over time. And you know that native fiber we just mentioned? It does something magic for your glycemic index too. A hemp protein shake sits super low, right around 25 to 30. Meanwhile, whey concentrate spikes up to like 55 or 65. Because hemp keeps its native fiber, it creates a much flatter, more stable glycemic curve in your bloodstream. You completely dodge that dreaded post-workout insulin crash, which means your brain and muscles get a steady, sustained stream of energy instead of a roller coaster. All right, the payoff. Part 5, Elite Recovery Protocol 2026. Let's get into the actionable steps for peak regeneration. Timing is literally everything here, and this is the exact chronological recovery window the elites are using today. Boom, you cross the finish line. Within that first 0 to 20 minutes, you want 15 to 20 grams of hemp paired with some fast carbs. That hits the immediate metabolic window to stop muscle breakdown. Fast forward to 60 to 90 minutes out, you sit down for a real, full meal and add a hemp isolate. And finally, the nightcap. Right before bed, take 20 to 25 grams of hemp paired with glycine. That nocturnal dose provides the steady drip of amino acids your body needs for muscle protein synthesis while you're deep asleep. Now, if you want to push into the truly elite tier, you synergize this whole protocol with adaptogens to fight off high cortisol and systemic overtraining. Here's the stack. Step 1, establish your hemp protein base. Step 2, toss in ashwagandha KSM66, which is clinically proven to drop your stress hormone, cortisol, by 14 to 27%. Step 3, introduce rhodiola rosea to promote recovery in your highly taxed central nervous system. And step 4, before bed, add reishi mushroom to support your natural nighttime melatonin and ensure you get that deep, restorative sleep. You know what's truly fascinating about all this? It isn't just some fringe biohacker theory anymore. Look at this data from the 2025 Performance Nutrition Survey. An astonishing 34% of top 200 athletes have completely eliminated dairy proteins from their diet. That is over a third of the best athletes on Earth. The shift towards pure, functional plant-based matrices, like hemp, is a rapidly accelerating reality at the absolute pinnacle of elite sports. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. As elite athletes out there redefine the absolute limits of human performance using these clean, plant-based matrices, what's fueling your own nutritional foundation? Look, if the greatest endurance machines on the planet are completely rethinking their recovery strategies, it might just be time to rethink yours. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.